They just don't like the human race. And this is where a lot of the hard left come from. And so they basically think humans are bad. If abortion's going to knock out a few of them, good.
But you weren't always pro-life, were you?
It wasn't an issue that I sort of thought about. So we have a baby drought. We need more babies in the world. I've seen some of your social media posts and you just ask people, are you aware that it's fully legal in New South Wales to kill a baby 1 minute before it's naturally born?
We now have definitive evidence that sex-selective abortion is happening.
We shouldn't be aborting anybody, but we certainly shouldn't be doing it just because it's traditional, cultural hocus pocus. That's what it is. It's hocus pocus.
The fact that you're not a pro-life party is holding you back. Today, I'm delighted to share with you an explosive interview with Libertarian MP John Ruddick. He's going to be introducing the first pro-life bill in New South Wales Parliament for many years. It's going to be on the issue of sex selection, and we talk about that in this episode. But I also think he's a fascinating person because he has first-hand experience in being able to speak into the rot in the Liberal Party, because indeed he was in the Liberal Party. He wrote a book about how the Liberal Party had to find its way and how that could happen. And so I asked him about that in this episode. I also drill him on the question of why does the Libertarian Party give a conscience vote on the issue of abortion when how can it be up to conscience when it's literally about killing a human being, which is what John now believes, but he didn't always believe that because he was pro-choice, and you're going to hear about that too. He also gives us the inside scoop on what was going down in the New South Wales Parliament around the time of the Greens bill, the radical abortion bill that Amanda Conn introduced earlier this year with Labor's support. So all of that and more today on the Dr. Joe Show. So thanks so much, John, for coming in today. It's really good to be able to have this chat.
Terrific to be with you. Thank you for the invitation.
Excellent. And we met in the New South Wales debate.
Yes.
And I actually didn't know before you got up and gave the speech that you did, that you were pro-life. But you weren't always pro-life, were you?
Well, look, I got involved in the Liberal Party in 1993 after John Hewson's Fight Back package, and I was always concerned with economic issues, pro-capitalism, small government, free speech. And I was involved in the right-wing faction of the Liberal Party, and there was a lot of conservative Catholics in there, and they were all my friends. But it wasn't an issue that I sort of thought about in depth. And it was, I joined the Libertarian Party in the middle of COVID. I joined because I thought we were overreacting to COVID. I thought we were getting us into a lot of debt. And Scott Morrison sold us out on global warming, which I don't believe in. So when those three things happened, I thought, I need to put my political energy into a different vehicle. So I joined the Libertarian Party. Now then, I had assumed that the Libertarian Party was a pro-choice party. But it was very quickly pointed out to me, particularly in the New South Wales division, that is not the case at all. In fact, there's quite a helpful Wikipedia page which is called Libertarian Views on Abortion. And there's about 8 different views. Now, yes, there are some people in the movement that are pro-choice, but there's a lot of very passionate people that are pro-life, and they explained to me why. I think I'd sort of come to the view that abortion was okay legally up until brainwaves were formed, which I think is very early on, maybe 12 weeks into the pregnancy. And I thought, well, look, prior to that, the baby is not going to feel pain because there's no brain. But then the policy director of the New South Wales Libertarian Party, a guy called Rob Cribb, he said to me, he said, okay, John, if we're going to have that law in place, so you're saying after, say, 12 weeks, we can't abort them, but before that we can. And I sort of said, I hadn't thought about it. He said, well, John, what would that baby look like in the womb 5 minutes before we'd got to that 12-week period? I said, well, the baby would probably look pretty much identical. He said, yeah, so if we're going to put an arbitrary line in there, then some little babies will be a little bit more developed at 12 weeks. Some will be a little not as well developed at that point. And so he said, it's just an arbitrary line. He said, some people say you can abort up until birth, some people up to the second trimester, and other artificial deadlines. He said to me, John, if you think about it, the one moment where something radically different happens, that there is a moment of transformation where something looks very different than what it had looked like 5 minutes before, there's only one point, and that's the conception. And I thought, gee, well, that is a rock-solid argument. I said, I cannot disagree with that. I said that, and then I sort of thought about it further. I thought, imagine if we just grew up in a society where abortion just wasn't a thing. It just didn't happen. And I thought it would actually be a lot happier society. And we have a baby drought now, and there's various reasons for that, and I think we're not sure about all the reasons, but it's quite alarming all around the world, and various governments are making different policy measures to try and stop it, and it's not happening. And so we have a baby drought. We need more babies in the world. And I'm thinking, now we all accept that unplanned pregnancies happen. So in that situation, when I was a kid, and I'm not that old, 54, but I remember quite a few kids at my school were in a very loving a family where they had been adopted into the family. And I think we should bring back, it doesn't seem to happen often these days. And I'm thinking, well, that is the humane way that we're not murdering a little baby. And so that's a sort of a summary of my position. So I'm very comfortable with that position. I was happy to sort of, play a role in trying to water down the recent Greens bill in the New South Wales Legislative Council. And so, but I think that argument, 5 minutes before doesn't look different if you're going to put a legal arbitrary deadline in there. And I think, yep, that is a solid argument, and I'm convinced.
Yep. Okay. Well, it's remarkable that you changed your mind, because people are often very reluctant to change their mind. And that's one of the things that's challenging about this whole issue is, I think young women in particular, or just even ordinary people, have sort of been brainwashed into thinking, well, abortion is healthcare, abortion is pro-woman, and the slogans are really effective. My body, my choice. Who's not for that? It's just, I guess, the pro-life perspective is there's a second human body there, and they also should have bodily autonomy. And being weaker and more and dependent doesn't make them less able to access those human rights, or it shouldn't. So I think it's really good that you changed your mind. We need probably more of that. I guess the next question I have for you is the Libertarian Party a pro-life party?
Well, the libertarian movement all around the world is a very ideological and intellectual movement, and there are some issues that we won't budge on, but we do say explicitly that the party doesn't have a position on abortion, and that if people are elected to Parliament, they are allowed to say whatever they feel like saying. Now, that said, in the New South Wales division, we have 7 members on our executive. I think 5 of them have participated over the years in pro-life rallies. So there is but look, I mean, that there will be, we had Senator David Leyonhjelm in Canberra for several years. I thought he was a very, very good senator. He has a very different view on this issue. So look, people like Ron Paul and Rand Paul in America are sort of the libertarian superheroes, very pro-life. Harvey Milei in Argentina, he's probably the rock star of the libertarian movement around the world. Really pro-life. People like Ayn Rand. I like Ayn Rand. She said, you can murder the baby up until birth. She didn't use the term murder, but so it's diverse. So so the party doesn't have a position.
Yeah. Okay. As we head into the 2027 state election, I would really like to make abortion a central issue. I think one of the differences between us and America is the Australian people are a lot less educated about our laws. Most people have no idea that abortion is legal up until birth in New South Wales, and for any reason. I would like to persuade people that it should be the condition of their vote. And I think one of the reasons we may have been able to gut the Greens abortion bill just over the last few months is because, particularly in Labor, who has done a very good job of courting faith communities and trying to appear more moderate since they took a very radical abortion policy in 2019 to the federal election, and they lost that election. They, since then, have done a great piece of work trying to reach out to faith communities. We saw Albanese turning up to St Mary's multiple times during the campaign. So I wanted to ask you, do you think that this could be an effective strategy for helping change our abortion laws? How important are the people in I think sometimes you think you can't do anything, you're never going to make a difference. But I think in the last few months I saw that we probably did make a difference. I don't think Labor would have done those amendments without our letterboxing campaign and our 2 big rallies. Is that right?
Well, look, I think it is absolutely right. I think a lot of that's to do with your leadership, Joanna. You've brought energy, and these rallies have been very effective. They were very large rallies at the front of Parliament House. Now, I've seen some of your social media posts where you're doing a vox pop on the street and you just ask people who want to have a chat with you, are you aware that it's fully legal in New South Wales to kill a baby 1 minute before it's naturally born? And most people are shocked to hear that and doubtful that it's true. They think, well, surely that couldn't be the case. So while it may be true that at this point in the debate that maybe a majority of Australians might be in favour of abortion, I think that probably 80, 90% of them would be against being able to kill a little baby that was just about to be naturally born. So I think that is absolutely an important part of the campaign. Now, another thing that I wanted to share with you that we're going to be doing before the end of the year is there was research out of Edith Cowan University in Perth recently. Very impressive research, got published internationally in a very impressive medical academic journal. They had studied 2.1 million births in Australia, I think from 1995 to 2015. That's a big data set. And what did it show us? It showed us that there is amongst Chinese Australians and Indian Australians and some other groups, there is, after they've had, let's say they've had 2 baby girls, and then they have their third child, they find out it's going to be a girl. Now, a lot of them go and have the baby, but an alarming number of them, when they've already had 2 girls and they find out they're going to have another one, they're having these very early tests, and if it's a girl, they're aborting it. So the statistics that this paper found was that naturally, if there's 100 baby girls born, there'll be around 104, 105 baby boys born. But when it's that situation where there's 2 baby girls have been born, there's another pregnancy, Chinese and Indian Australians, for every 100 baby girls born, 135 boys are born. And this paper concluded, well, there's clearly only one explanation for this, and that is that they're aborting their children because they're a girl. So now Fred Nile, who's retired, but who fought these issues for many years heroically, he was in the last Parliament going to bring up a bill to make this illegal. But I don't think it went to debate because it wasn't going to get through. And I have seen what the other side says on this subject, and they say, no, it's not happening. That's their only argument. Well, Edith Cowan University, 2.1 million pieces of data say that it is happening. So this will put the feminist-loving left in a conundrum, okay, because we shouldn't be aborting anybody, but we certainly shouldn't be doing it just because it's your traditional cultural hocus pocus. That's what it is. It's hocus pocus. And people come to Australia because we've moved beyond hocus pocus, or we like to think we have. And so now at the moment, the guidelines in New South Wales do direct the health practitioners to not conduct an abortion because of gender. But it's not enforced and there's no penalties. So my bill will introduce some penalties not to the mother, but to the doctor.
It's not working. This guideline, this kind of advice to be mindful of whether a woman wants to abort for sex selection, there's no mandatory obligation like there is in South Australia. We're the only state in the country that has a ban on sex-selective abortion. And,
backed up by penalties?
It's not backed up by a penalty, but it is a ban, and so if you were found to be in breach of it, the medical board could investigate. So at that level, I think it exists and there's a normative effect to it. And I think it is important that when something is as abhorrent as sex-selective abortion, we need to make that very clear in the law. Like you, I agree, all abortion should be illegal because every abortion kills a human being. But to get us to that point now would be impossible in the current landscape because there's such a low level of awareness of what abortion is and how it operates, and there's such a cover-up that we now have definitive evidence that sex-selective abortion is happening.
Yes, it's unequivocal.
Yeah, you cannot deny it. And they did try to deny it in 2019 when Tanya Davies raised this as an issue in the abortion up to birth debates then, and the media and academic and political pile-on against Tanya. And just even where I'm from in South Australia, the South Australian Law Reform Institute, which is actually out of Adelaide Law School where I work, they published their report about abortion law reform, and they said there's no evidence that sex-selective abortion happens in Australia, and there's no evidence that a ban would be effective. And yet, even when they wrote that, there were actually 2 La Trobe University studies which showed that sex-selective abortion is happening. One of them showed that in certain ethnic communities, 125 boys are being born to 100 girls. So that's clearly there's a reason for that. SBS had also done an investigation into the raw data of boy births to girl births, and they'd also interviewed women anecdotally about this experience. Dr. Mark Hobart in Victoria famously was cautioned by the medical board because he refused to sign off on a sex-selective abortion. And the woman in that case, she got the abortion. Her husband particularly wanted her to get that abortion, and that baby was killed at 21 weeks, which is just extraordinary to think of a Marie Stopes abortionist injecting that baby's heart with poison and delivering that baby dead. I mean, you just have to be a psychopath to do something like that. But Dr. Mark Hobart, I've got an interview with him on my YouTube channel, and he shares about that woman came back with a subsequent pregnancy, and she said, I'm just not testing for gender, because she didn't want to tell her husband what the gender was. She didn't want to know. She just wanted to have that baby because the abortion had been so traumatic. So I am Indian, and this isn't racist. This the way that I think, what could happen, how you frame that, we don't want this hocus pocus in Australia. You could totally see the left-wing media putting that in a headline about you. But the reality is, and I want to make this really clear for people, as someone who has come originally from India and lives in this country, I'm Australian, I don't want this. Like, I don't want my children to grow up in a country where we talk about egalitarianism and the fair go, and yet we say, oh, well, immigrants who come here, they can bring that archaic patriarchal attitude that boys are better than girls into this country.
And I think that, look, the vast majority of Indians and Chinese in this country don't do this.
No.
But there is a percentage that is clearly doing it.
Yeah.
And the study from Edith Cowan University says it names several other countries.
Yeah.
But when it's like, when you have an Australian-born mother and she's had 2 daughters, the chances of her having a 3rd daughter is just completely in line with what it would be for the first one. So it's not happening in Australia. People come to Australia and they learn, they assimilate our cultural values and other things, and this thing will hopefully phase out with time, but it's happening now.
And so we need a law in order to disrupt that process right now, to really make it clear that there's an obligation on doctors to make sure that the abortion they're signing off on is not a sex-selective abortion.
It could be that a rare legislative win for our side, that we could start to turn the tide on this. And then the other one that you mentioned about the abortion up to birth. No one's in favour of that. And when it passed, and it did receive quite a fair bit of media, the debate did, but this particular issue, which is the most egregious of all, was barely mentioned. So this is why when you go and talk to people in the public, they don't know about it. And the thing about this debate about the is the gender selection abortion happening? The thing that really sort of horrifies me is the complete lack of curiosity on the other side. And they say, oh, it's not happening, it's not happening. They're not interested. They just want to claim it's not happening. And I think that at the end of the day, there is amongst the radical elements on the other side of this debate, I think it's basically misanthropy. They just don't like the human race. And this is where a lot of the hard left come from. And so they basically think humans are bad. If abortion's going to knock out a few of them, good. And that's why they're not curious. But anyway, this Edith Cowan University study will be, I believe, hopefully a turning point, and hopefully we're going to be doing it there in the New South Wales Parliament. Great.
So I'm really excited about that you've announced that you're going to do this. Now, this bill will be a private member's bill. What can we do in the community to make sure that it actually sees the light of day? Because we know that with Amanda Con's Greens bill, Chris Minns gave it government time, but if he hadn't done that, this bill would not be law right now. It would still be languishing, like many private members' bills do. What can we in the community do to support you?
Oh, look, I'm confident it'll come up for debate. Okay, so that will be on a Wednesday. So, look, I'll keep you and your community up to date on all the developments. I suspect we're looking at sort of October, November. So it will come on for debate. It'll probably, and I'm hoping the Labor Party and the Liberal Party can give their members a conscience vote. I think there was 2 or 3 Labor members in the upper house who voted against Amanda Con's bill, so it's not impossible. But I think on this issue, this is standing up for women's rights. You know, so,
You'd hope that Penny Sharp and Rose Jackson and Abigail Boyd and Amanda Con would be supporting this bill because it is protecting girls from being killed because they're girls.
Well, I certainly hope all those people you mentioned do vote for it, and I will be curious to see what their arguments are about why we shouldn't. I mean, are they going to say that this study of 2.1 million births is faulty? I don't think so. So now, how can the movement help? Let's have another rally, Joanna.
Yeah, I'm so for that. I love the rallies.
And let's keep doing what we're doing. Yeah. Now, the mainstream media is still more powerful than social media, but social media every year is growing, and mainstream media power every year is eroding.
Yep.
And on social media, people like yourselves can build a big audience. So let's just let's keep doing what we're doing. Let's have a rally. We'll keep you updated on it. And let's really try. Look, it's not often that a crossbench member can get a bill through the Parliament. But I've got faith. Let's do our very, very best on this occasion to really say, look, and look, you know, the penalties, we're not even talking about sending them to jail.
Yeah.
The penalties would be something like $20,000 for a doctor, an individual doctor who has performed a gender selection abortion, and $40,000 for the company above them. Up to. Now, so this is not particularly, no one wants to pay a $20,000 fine.
No.
But I mean, it's not, you know, and there would be some type of professional correction. I think what it'll do is it'll just basically stop happening. People won't want to take the risk.
It's absolutely will stop it happening, and it will protect those girls. So that's really good. I want to just ask you, we talked a little bit about the Labor Party already, but what's the deal with Mark Speakman and the Liberal Party, and why are they so pathetic? And what's the future there for that party? I know you've got a background in it, so I think you've got particular insights to share with us.
Well, look, you know, we'd have to say that the Liberal Party was formed about 90 years ago. I'd say for the first 70 years, it was a very good party. Look out the window. Australia's a successful country. The Liberal Party basically ran the show for a very long time, and they were good governments on balance, okay? Libertarians would prefer them to be even smaller, but they were pretty good. People like Robert Menzies. And they were so successful that, you know, we had a long-term Labor Prime Minister, Bob Hawke. He was basically a Liberal, okay? Now, what has happened in the last sort of 20 years is that, you know, it's in a bad way. It's in electoral decline because it's in philosophical decline, okay? It basically wants to stand for as little as possible. Now, how can we reverse this? And look, I'm a member of the Libertarian Party. I want us to go from strength to strength. But, you know, at the moment, the Liberal Party is you know, they're still getting, you know, a lot of votes. I believe it can all be changed by, not quotas, I think that the parliamentary leader, so at the moment, Susan Ley in Canberra and Mark Speakman here in New South Wales, at the moment they are elected by the party room, which is just the members of parliament in, you know, the federal parliament or the state parliament. That's typically, you know, 80 to 100 people. And, you know, 1/3 of those people participating in that vote are going to get, depending upon who the leader is, they're going to get a front bench position. So deals are done. People aren't voting for the best candidate, they're voting for self-interest. So that's a corrupted process. And this used to be the case in Britain and Canada, which have very, very, very similar constitutional systems to Australia. But over the last sort of, you know, few decades, Britain and Canada now choose their parliamentary leaders by a vote of all the members of the party. So in the Canadian Conservative Party, there's 700,000 members, and it only costs $15 to join. It costs $100 to join the Liberal Party, and that doesn't give you many rights at all. Pay $15, and if you're in Canada, you get to have a vote. Do you want Angus Taylor to be the federal parliamentary leader, or Susan Ley, or somebody else might pop along? I think there'll be a lot of people out there say, yeah, I'll join the Liberal Party. I'll pay $15 if I can get a vote on that. Makes it much more democratic. And what they do in Canada and Britain is they have TV debates. They have a big campaign, they have advertising, and they say, vote for me because I believe in A, B and C. And the other person says, no, vote for me because I believe in X, Y and Z. It's a debate about policy. This is what we don't have at the moment, and this is why we end up with leaders who are so timid they don't want to take any positions. But if they've had to win by the party true believers, they're not going to win unless they do take strong positions.
I mean, Susan Ley supports the e-safety commissioner. I need I say more? Like, I feel like she belongs on the left.
Yes.
And there's people in the New South Wales Liberal Party like Jackie Munro, Felicity Wilson, Kelly Sloan. They belong in the left, in the Greens. That's how left they appear to me. Mark Speakman is so limp and spineless. I don't think he could lead, he can't lead anyone, let alone a parliamentary party. Like, I'm saying these things because you probably can't say them, but I just feel like this party is so uninspiring.
Well, you're right, but you know that I know the membership of the Liberal Party very well. 70% of them are good, solid Conservatives.
Yes.
They would be supporters of Joanna House, 70%.
Yeah.
If you've gone to the bother of joining the Liberal Party, you're generally going to be pretty right-wing.
Yep.
So that I say, well, let's let them dominate.
I love your solution, and one of my campaign elements coming out of the New South Wales Greens debate, where Speakman and Minns were lockstep with Amanda Conn, is obviously we need to defeat the Labor Party because they're always going to push us more radical on abortion and on all of these issues. But we need to you wrote a book, Make the Liberal Party Great Again. I think the way we do that is the grassroots need to take over that party. And I love your idea that the grassroots elects the leader. I also do want to really support minor parties such as yourself and to help you have a much more dominant role, because the major parties need to be held to account. And, there's no one in the major parties with the courage to bring a bill addressing this crisis in sex-selective abortions in New South Wales. There wasn't a single member of either of the major parties to even speak to that study when it came out. Just 2 weeks ago or just a few weeks ago. So it's really significant to have someone like you in the parliament.
Well, look, in terms of minor parties, the Australian constitutional arrangements guarantee that we're going to have a powerful crossbench in Canberra and a powerful crossbench in our upper houses. Because we have, if you want to become a senator in California or Montana or Florida, the whole state just votes for every 2 or 4 years. They vote for one person to be the senator, either a Democrat or a Republican. But when we vote in South Australia or New South Wales at one election, we're voting for 6 senators. So because it's not a winner takes all. It's 6 people are going to win. So that means increasingly we're going to get one left-wing senator, a Green, and one minor right senator. And that's where the political energy is. That's where the activists are. So, yes, we want the Liberal Party to become great again. But, I think the best way to do that is to put external pressure on the Liberal Party by being smarter on policy on the outside. And now the Greens have done this very effectively on the left. The Labor Party used to be reasonably centrist party. Then the Labor left faction basically left and joined the Greens and the old communists, and they joined the Greens, and the very sort of, they capped that at about 10% of the vote about 10 or 15 years ago. 10% of the vote in Australia gives you a lot of power. There's 76 senators in Canberra, 12 of them are Greens. Although one of them has now left to Labor. But still, this Labor government basically can get anything it wants through the Parliament if the Greens agree. Okay, it's not quite that point in New South Wales. So minor parties are here to stay.
But one of my issues is, and that example is emblematic of what I'm about to say, on the left, we've got one dominant radical left party. On the right, we've got you guys, we've got Family First, we've got One Nation, we've got, the Katter Party, the Shooters. We had the Clive Palmer doing his, disruptive stuff. It's a mess. It really feels like a mess, and it feels like there's too many big egos in the room that nobody's going to get behind one party. The party that gets the most votes is Pauline Hanson's One Nation party, but I don't know how long she's going to kick around for in a really prominent role politically, and what happens to that party when she steps back. It's really difficult to know how we get to a situation where we have a right party that rivals the dominance of the Greens, because when it's all fractured, I don't know if we can. What do you think?
Well, you're right, okay, and it is tragic. Okay, now, but look, I think that I'll just put in a pitch for the Libertarian Party.
Okay.
why we should be the dominant in the minor right. Okay, now the other parties, we all get along quite well. When we meet other members of Parliament, other party officials, if I go around New South Wales and I'm at Dubbo and I meet someone from One Nation, I feel like I'm meeting a brother, okay? So we all get along very well. And you know what? We also agree on about 80% of things. We do have our differences, but we do agree. Now, there's a lot more, there's probably a lot more policy unity in the minor right than you have in the Liberal Party. You know, you can go from arch conservatives to wacky teal type Liberals. So, but the other parties are either formed around a single issue or a single personality. So the Libertarian Party is very much, as I said before, an intellectual party, an ideological party. We don't bend on principles, and we're basically right about everything. And so I think that we've got more depth than the other parties, okay? Because if you're just focused on one thing, guns or, Christian stuff, okay, well, that's all got its place. But I mean, the Libertarian Party has a whole spectrum of views. Now we look at what the Liberal Party was up until recent years. It was basically what we stand for: small government, free enterprise, free speech, conservative social values. So we're sort of like the ones holding the flag.
John, I agree with you. I like the intellectual tradition of the Libertarian Party, and I feel like it's very attractive, and it's got a lot more depth than a lot of the parties on the right, the minor parties on the right. But on the issue of abortion, the fact that you're not a pro-life party is holding you back. I do think that you can't be calling yourself socially conservative as a party when you allow a conscience vote on the murder of innocent children. And I do think that if you wanted to make a claim as a party to be the dominant party on the right, and people like myself could then get behind you, because I think one of the issues is Family First largely attracts a niche Christian demographic. One Nation's got like a historical legacy. I think that has that section of the vote, people that love that Pauline stood up, to the media, and there's probably no one that's been as attacked as Pauline Hanson. In some ways, she's a bit like a Trump, but not really, because she hasn't built on that. But she was a real pioneer in standing up to the bullies, and I think she still gets that respect today from people.
Well, about the part, the Libertarian
why
Party.
can't
okay,
you?
Well,
what's it going to take?
All I can say is I make a prediction that over at least the next decade, you will be overwhelmingly impressed with the candidates that we put forward from the New South Wales division.
Okay, and I guess my challenge to you, and I'm sure some of your party members and fellow politicians will be watching, is that for the Libertarian Party to really dominate on the right, this is a litmus test issue for people who are conservative. And the Greens know it. They are 100% as pro-abortion as you can get. There's no conscience vote on abortion. As Abigail Boyd and Amanda Conn said in the debate, we will support abortion every single time in every vote. We do not believe in conscience votes on this issue. If you want to be the right-wing party to counter the Greens, that's actually where the Libertarians need to go.
Well, look, I appreciate your frank advice. Now, the thing is, abortion law, as you know, is a state-based issue. So I can't, so it's not a federal issue, okay. Sometimes it does come up in federal parliament, but to change the actual, where the rubber hits the road,
The money is the important thing federally around abortion.
Now, well, I can only speak for the New South Wales division. We do have divisions in all the other states. And I can just simply reiterate that you and your movement will be overwhelmingly impressed. Not just that our candidates, we have Democratic votes, we'll see what happens, but not only are they pro-life, but they will be, I predict, passionately pro-life.
Good. And I think if you were to pre-select for the next state election all pro-life candidates, then I would be able to say to people, well, we've vetted everyone in this party, vote one above the line for the Libertarians. I'm not going to be able to say that for the Liberals, obviously not Labor. But, for the fact that you're in Parliament already, you will be introducing a bill to ban sex-selective abortion. You've clearly got a commitment around late-term abortion to ban that, but you're actually against all abortion. You're a guy I can work with. And if the rest of your ticket is like that, then we're going to be able to say to people in New South Wales at least, vote one for the Libertarians. And I think if we're able to really successfully support you, that will actually have a flow-on effect for the Libertarians in the other states. And they'll say, well, John's doing something really exciting in New South Wales. Maybe that's something we should mirror and consider.
Well, let's see how it all unfolds.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
but look, we are hopeful in 2027 of getting 1 or 2 people elected to the upper house, and that can give us, we would then have 3 out of 42. That gives you quite a bit of sway.
Yeah.
And what the Greens have done is they've this 10% purity party. Now, they're purely wrong, but they are purists. And they have dragged the Labor Party to the left. So what we do need to do over on the minor right, yes, we need to have one party needs to emerge, or some form of a closer coalition needs to emerge. We can be 10%, 12%, have a handful of senators and upper house members, and drag the Liberal Party to the right.
Yeah.
And then we'd be doing a great service to the country.
Yeah, great. Well, John, thank you so much for your time today, and thank you for everything that you're doing.
Thank you, Joanna.
Yeah, wonderful.